Welcome back to some professional StarCraft 2. Let me introduce to you the red Zerg player in the top left of Babylon. The final boss. It is dark. And opposite him in the bottom right, being questioned. Oh my god. Anyways, it's Astrea. It's the battle mage from America. And apparently in America. Dark starts off this best of 3 by doing the classic ladder cheese. Which is, hey, where from? So Astrea has lived in Korea, competed in GSL. And apparently picked up the Korean keyboard. Astrea controlling. So this is the Korean StarCraft League, the community supported league as well. Check out the description below. But it is played on the Korean server, though it's not limited to Korean players. It's just usually having 200 something ping. But Dark, already annoyed by Astrea's lack of caring about such futile things. Well, after that amusing start, let me remind you, if you enjoy the games, make sure to like and subscribe. Jimmy, where are we at? 1,022 likes. If we're able to get 1,022 likes on this series, I will cast another series of StarCraft 2 tomorrow. Yes. And I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. We're upping the ante again, though very incrementally. Oh, and these two, like, Dark clearly the favorite. Dark is the favorite in most things he does, unless the competition is to lose, in which case he's probably not going to win in that. But Astrea, definitely a little bit of a different player, and while he may have a little bit of ping, apparently doesn't too much care about that. Starting out with the Oracle, a very standard kickoff to Protoss versus Zerg so far. Dark has managed to get 3 bases, though was forced by that quote Gosu probe control to get the outer third, as we all know, in Zerg versus Protoss. Your second base will either be their natural or your third. Taking your very own naturey is very difficult. Astrea opts for the incredibly quick third nexus, which will force the oracles back, but one still close enough, I believe, to drive back the Zerglings. Twilight Council on the way. Immediate follow-up, no forge, and a second gas here. Interesting, or third gas rather. A gas at its second base. Astrea taking some damage on the Oracle, badly bruised, but still alive, still able to cast Revelation, and that's usually the most important part. I'm interested to see where we go with this Twilight Council. As getting all this gas, he's still building oracles. Is it Oraglaves? Working title? Dark Shrine? There's 3 oracles so far. The Triumvirate. Yes. Well, there's the Nydus. Did you go Oracle? Did you go Twilight? Did you go third base? Did you exist? Well, here's a Nydus network as Dark has decided to take a shortcut. What is this? So the probes are having this is actually, so the probes seem to not be able to mine correctly. This is actually there's kind of a bug, as they're not able to mine from this patch, I think, because of the pylon. So Astrea has managed to put his probes in such a weird position. Well, not particularly relevant. What's most relevant now is Dark and his Nydus network directly outside Astrea's base. Going to be emerging dramatically and unloading the queens. Blink is still a while out. A whole lot of Zerglings being unloaded. I think Astrea has an okay setup for defending this, besides, of course, the weak point being a single adept. Oh, I love it. Oh my god, it makes so much sense. Why does no one do this? The way Astrea set up his wall means he can slap a cyber core behind it. And you slap a cyber core, costs as much as a gateway, but it has more HP and it builds faster. So it's an even better wall-off mechanism. A lot of players will go for the shield battery immediately behind the adept, but Astrea prepared for such dramatic antics from Dark here. And with Blink already done, the Nydus in the main, but the probes have had enough. Unfortunately, the stasis only catches a singular Zergling, but it looks like, well, now Astrea does have, he has 2 cyber cores and a hard wall, though none of his units are particularly care too much about the walls. Trying to get the Zerglings in on the 3rd. This is not working out for Dark at all. He's barely killed anything. Astrea with a near immaculate defense. He's lost 4 adepts and a stalker. That's it. Like, he didn't even lose a single probe throughout all this, despite the troubles the probes are clearly having mining from this location. Well, and then he blinks out, or didn't blink out, but it walked out into Dark, who decided to just kind of keep building Zerglings. The queens are still around. The creep is still spreading. Dark just takes it so much further than you'd expect. On paper, Dark should have stopped doing this a while ago. This is not working. But if you keep doubling down, maybe your opponent won't call your bluff. Or will. I'm not sure which one it is in this case, but it's just Dark. And even though, wait, Astrea didn't notice the queens are, we've arrived! The queens are getting around more than Astrea's units right now. The Zerglings run around to join up with them. He's gonna get the 4th Nexus. There is creep, can transfuse with the queens. Dark's long-form Nydus is, I don't know how he does this. It's a mind game as much as it is a meta game. And now Astrea's left in this awkward. He's quarantined his bases. He still has this weird probe setup, and I'm pretty sure it's because this mineral patch is unreachable. The probes are trying to get there and just having a mental breakdown when they can't. So despite all of this, Astrea doesn't have an incredible army for just waltzing across the map. Dark has Hydralisk now. What a crazy game. Astrea with a great defense. In fact, his defense was almost too good, because that has left him with little offensive capability. He's going to take down his backup cyber, and awkwardly can't really rebuild anything quite yet, as the creep has spread into his main. How to know it's a Dark game while covering up the names. There's creep in the opponent's base at the 9-minute mark, and both players are macroing. Like, Dark has successfully executed the macro Nydus play. He's delayed the 4th, he's delayed the tech, he's spread creep all over the map, which has to be dealt with. The probes are pulled to deal with the cyber core in the wall. Finally, the creep is being cleaned up by a few zealots and the first observer here. Charge is done, and Astrea is, while mentally scarred, physically looking pretty solid right now. And also in game. So, lurkers on the way for Dark here, but there's already Immortals. Storm, +2 ground weapons is in production. I think Astrea's in an okay spot. He's still got some oracles left over. And Dark has not had a huge economy throughout this. Does he have a Baneling Nest? He does not. So the legions of charge lots that Astrea is going to be able to bring to bear are certainly an option here. Though Dark has a tendency to make these lurkers look disgustingly and incredibly effective, more so than pretty much any player in the world. Oh, stop right there, criminal Zerglings. That's enough. Think about what you've done. as all they did was simply run forward. Can't kill them, but you can make them feel very uncomfortable. A lot of Protoss abilities are less about killing their opponent and more about making them stay far away. But now that, whoa, quite a gamer move out of Astrea there. I don't know, there was one more Zergling. But overall, Astrea looking good, though does not have any real... Has he spotted the lurker then? I don't think he's seen any lurkers yet. Well, he certainly hasn't seen them, but or been revealed. Excuse me. Things are getting too dramatic. I'm allergic to such drama. But I must press on, as 2 Stargates on the way. Astrea understands the lurkers are a real and present danger, and at some point, the ranged lurkers are just too much for the ground army to handle. That point is a strong double-digit number, usually. Like 12, 15 lurkers it essentially becomes impossible to attack in on the ground. Especially once they get their adaptive talons as well. So, Astrea gonna probe for weakness here. Range is not yet done, but he is making the smart move, which is transitioning into Sky Toss behind. Another Nydus to block the base. I love it. I mean, that's one way to do it. The charge lots have to come back to deal with it. There's nothing in the Nydus. It was just there to block, and there's a bit of creep, so it sticks around for a while. Charge lots over to the left, though, gonna slice up some of the drones. Probably not get the hatchery, as the lurkers... Yeah, the lurkers do struggle to kill the charge lots particularly quickly, though. And they get the hatchery. The main base. There was a warp prism. Did he lose it? Yes. He's lost 2 prisms, which means I haven't been doing my job. 2 warp prisms down. The main base still intact, so that tells you most of the story, though. Lurkers trying to move up, but no detection, so blinking in means you might not be getting out at all. Needs the revelations, feedback, storms, Templar across the board. The Battle Mage working his way through. Going to have the carriers arriving momentarily. Vipers on the field for Dark. Missile attacks level 2 is done. And for the lurkers. And, you know, everything else, but mostly the lurkers. Stasis, stop right there, Queens. Gonna delay this attack, but Dark is marching inexorably forward. The carriers are going to be required sooner rather than later. Did he bring... Oh, he has an observer with the attack. The due diligence not too many Protoss players will put in. This is a very tough position to break, especially on the ground. The carriers are probably required here. Shield battery overcharge. Lurkers can't quite reach that battery, at least for the most part. Templar using all their energy. Queens marching forward, just weathering the storms. Carriers have arrived. But he drags it in. The Queens. That's enough of that. Looks like carriers departing, Susan. Yes, Brenda, yes. Very funny. You got him. The Viper did all the heavy lifting, but sure, good job out there. Your knitting needles are sharper than all of ours, yes. Yes, we'll be at the PTA meeting later. Meanwhile, well, the first carrier didn't do much besides alert Dark to the fact that you needn't be scared of carriers quite yet. Hydra's moving up. Dark with the Nydus on the high ground, just for vision and to distract, it looks like. There's so many uses for something considered an outright cheese by many players. Dark is starting to use Nydus more and more like Brood War, where they're just kind of a utility tool. Hydra's all over the place. Well, and in the form of lurkers as well, which is the only way they might survive this, but the carrier count has grown dramatically. And there is detection on all these lurkers. The ground army is getting eviscerated, but the lurkers are getting cut down as well by the overwhelming carriers. Meanwhile, though, shield battery overcharge keeps a cannon intact, but this base is gonna go down. Hydra's picking it apart. the carrier is becoming a bit more of a desperation move and a bit less of a tech transition, as Dark still continues to whittle down Astrea's economy. Dark is only at 65 drones. He makes such low economy look so good. He's managed to stay even with Astrea in losses. He lost a little bit more gas. Oh no, there's no detection for the lurkers. He's losing some high energy Templar. Down goes a carrier. Needs the storms to deal with the overwhelming amounts of Hydralisks, which are slithering in and taking down the carriers. Down to 2. Oh, wait. Okay, he gets it. Only 2 carriers left. Astrea, what looked like a Protoss death ball, is drawn and quartered as 8 carriers become 2. Hydras able to close in. He brought some of the Hydras back from the opposite side, as well as just refilling the supply. And Dark manages to take the momentum out of that push with great skill. And now Astrea, that carriers are not a cheap unit. At least in terms of minerals and gas, if you know what I mean. And Astrea has lost a significant number of them, but the charge lots are able to slice through another hatchery. Hydras come up and angrily poke down a few more. Carriers clearing the creep. Astrea not willing to tap this out yet. He's still in an okay spot, and he's still got a lot of carriers. And there is no dedicated anti-air here. Out of Dark, he doesn't have the Corruptors. Without the Corruptors, at the end of the day, you're still on relatively thin ice against the carriers, as the ground army simply cannot bring all its forces to bear, as the units have to jostle around against one another, and the carriers can all stack up in one place to hide their numbers. A Nydus slab down, why not? It's relatively cheap. Ultralisk, Ultralisk Cavern is on the way. Alright, Yankson. One thing I notice about Dark is how he's all about confirming the kills. His Vipers almost always go for Abduct. Not Blinding Cloud, not Parasitic Bomb. Yes, he'll use them, but the first choice is Abduct, because the best way to control a unit is to remove it from the field. And the Hydras, well, the Storms do a number on the Hydras. The carriers have +2/+1. So they're not pushovers themselves, but +3/+2 Hydras. So many Hydras right now. As the lurkers are closing in to the natural. The Knight is finished over to the right side. Yanks in another carrier and knocks it down. And the Hydra count is just too damn high. Chasing down the carriers, he manages to have creep at all these bases just constantly. The Hydras are doing so well. And do not take this as a tutorial here. Hydras do not really counter carriers. Dark's Hydras counter carriers with great reliance on Vipers and Lurkers for zoning the Templar, and immaculate creep spread while continually distracting on the opposite side. Even then, 1 or 2 good storms could give the carriers back their momentum. The problem is, oh really the problem for Astrea here, is despite only having 66 drones, Dark is in a massive economic lead because he has so many bases to mine from. He's getting the hatchery in the bottom left. Astrea is down to 1.5-ish mining bases. He's finally able to mine from that mineral patch now that the one next to it is taken out. He's running out of mineral patches. He's got 20 minerals here. It doesn't matter. You can't even use all 60 probes, as he doesn't have the mineral patches to mine with them. He has to expand to the top right. He knows it's becoming desperate because carriers, interceptors, 15 minerals apiece. All right, they're not cheap. It really, the cost adds up. He's already lost 158 of them. Dark seems to just have Astrea's number when it comes to the carriers here. And Astrea playing a beautiful game against the Nydus. The tech transition to carriers, but Dark just smoothly brings in the hive tech. The ultras here actually make a ton of sense in a kind of a convoluted fashion, as there's very little on the ground, and the major threat to the Hydras are the Templar. And the ultras don't care too much for your storms or your stasis. So the ultras, their entire purpose is to box out the Templar, because the massive hulking beasts don't care very much about the dudes in their fancy robes and their water balloons, yanking in the Archons and popping them. Dark still giving this army the respect it deserves. Many games have been thrown up against this sort of army. The Sky Toss with Templar. Astrea going for that desperation base in the corner. And Dark is acknowledging his major weakness, which is the Templar and Storm. So he's added in some tools to deal with it. The Ultras might find the base over here. The Templar have a few more Storms. Astrea looking for an opportunity. Nydus for reinforcements. And Astrea may be drawn into yet another sort of base trade here. But it's not really a base trade if only one player is losing their bases. That's just a donation. And Templar getting sliced. Oh, beautiful storm. So far, Dark is maxed out. Ultras, where are the carriers? Ultras chewing through. Nydus every which way. Astrea clearly has a solid grasp of what he needs to do, but Dark just keeps slipping out of it. He's exactly where you least expect. Or he's where you most expect, which was so obvious you didn't expect it. But 100 supply gap here. The army just getting picked to pieces. The Hydra's chasing. Astrea doesn't want to tap out of a game where he has carriers and Templar against Hydralisk. But when you're pulling probes against lurkers, well, it's not great. There's a lurker in the natural. Astrea still has a few immortals. He's got... okay, well, here we go. Good luck. Quite an optimistic army. I don't think he realizes Dark is straight up... That's way too much. No, that's... Okay. The Hydralisks. More than enough. They cut down the carriers. And pretty much everything else. Oh my god. Well, quite a dramatic game one there. Dark, though, showing his prowess in all parts of the game. That was the most macro Nydus game. I've seen a lot of Nydus games out of Dark, but he's just using it like another designated pressure. A build you just macro out of, whatever. And it worked out like... There's no such thing as cheese. Just alternative macro, says Dark. And we go... Well, I mean, a pretty decisive game one. But Astrea had his moments there, and I think there were definitely opportunities for him to bring it back. So, I don't think we're left without hope, my fellow Americans. And oh my god. Well, here you go. Dark has gone hatch first. Now, that hatchery, of course, is at Astrea's natural. Wait. Oh my god. If Astrea was a slightly worse player and he accidentally sent his probe just a few pixels forward, then he would have accidentally this is exactly out of range. While the builds may seem like a home-cooked pipe bomb, there is some method to the madness. As he knows the exact amount of vision that you'll have when doing your initial build. He knows the timings, and he does everything. Astrea is going to see the creep momentarily. Let's go to the Astrea cam here. Oh, wait a second. No, he saw it. He saw it 100%. The spine crawlers are on the way! Okay, Astrea. Well, Forge to block. Cannon's an interesting choice to deal with this. Though, he hasn't seen the spines yet. Against roaches, maybe? Oh my god, you can't... Oh, the disrespect. What are you gonna do about it? It's literally the one... he can't hit it. He would have been hitting that creep tumor if he could. The spines show up. Astrea. Dark is knocking on the door. Will you answer? And Dark isn't knocking on the door. He's slamming into it with a battering ram. As the Impaler Tentacles. That is the actual name of the spine crawler attack. Look it up. Alright, I'm not just saying that out loud. Don't make it weird. Are working their way through. Astrea building cannons. He's got a backup pylon because the first one might not make it. The gateway itself. But that's a lot of cannons here. And, well, he's got a Baneling nest on the way. Oh. Now that's certainly a development. The Baneling nest is done. And these are a lot of stacked up buildings now, aren't they? He moves back slightly. There is no unit producing structure for Astrea right now. In fact, there's no building producing structures. He can't build... You need a cyber core for shield batteries. He doesn't have a cyber core. He can't build anything. Dark is marching forward. With the Banelings, he's busted. And with it, he takes out the shield battery and both pylons. It's a disaster. And Dark just busts through Astrea. Down he goes. Oh my god. Dark. I can't... I mean, I can totally believe it. 100%. That is one of the most believable games I've ever seen from Dark. What a cheese. What an execution from the final boss. And that is going to be 2-0 from Dark. And that will lead us into our bonus game. Which, so, you guys had some strong feelings about the bonus game in the last time. Overwhelmingly positive responses. And yes, an extra game in these quicker series. I don't know exactly. So I now have a folder. I've got binders full of games. And by that I mean I have a handful. This is from Dave Testa sending this in. Hosts the Korean StarCraft League and a bunch of other tournaments. But it is a Zerg versus Protoss. I'm going to take a risk here. Neither of these players is Dark or Astrea, but it is Protoss versus Zerg. I don't really want to limit myself to only games that the players in the series played, but there are a lot of one-off games that aren't necessarily a full series. But let me introduce the last Sea King over here, aka Meo Meka, the Vietnamese Zerg player known for incredibly... He's a bit of a dark style. In the case, he has a completely different style. And the Malaysian Protoss Ranger. Both these players, high Grandmaster. On a good day, they can compete with the best, and they're definitely some of the best the rest And they both have these kind of particular play styles. But hopefully, and the intent is, not every series that's 2-0 will have a bonus game. All right? But if I have one that I want to show off and I get the opportunity, I'll take it. But the entire point is to make it a little less predictable and occasionally just have us. I don't know who wins this game. I don't know exactly what happens. But for those opportunities, when people give me recommendations of single games, this is one of the best ways, I think, to show it off. So, what do we have so far? Nothing particularly untowards. We have... Oh, I take it back. That's a lair. Did he see the lair? No. As soon as the adept died, the lair started for Maomeka. I don't know what Last Sea King is a reference to, but that is the account name he's using right now. 2 adepts get in, though, and there's essentially no units to stop them. So not only will the lair be scouted, he's gonna lose a whole bunch of drones. 4 drones. Here comes the Oracle. Gonna pick up another one. Slaps down the Revelation. So Ranger already has a bit of an economic lead. He's going Phoenix. It's an infestation pit. Sure, of course. Infestation pit. Hydralisk den. Robo Bay. We are just sprinting. This tech tree is progressing faster than bamboo. Like, they're both on essentially 2-base economy and getting all the tech you'd expect from a 3 or 4 base player. As Ranger adds a Robo Bay and 4 more gates, Maomeka with a Hydralisk den and an infestation pit? Is this like a hive lurker rush? He hasn't actually done anything. He's getting muscular augments. Ranger trying to find a spot out of range of the Spore Crawler, not quite succeeding. Alright, Zerglings running by. We've got 3 infestors on the way. A Colossus with extended thermal lance. Maomeka has no way to know about that Robo Bay. He's just dropping creep out because, you know, having queens is overrated. So, he might be similar to Dark, but also very... Neural Parasite? A Neural Parasite rush. Though, oh my god, look at that infestor scene. It looks so weird. The Oracle tries to chase down the weirdly bulbous infestor. The infestors don't have enough energy to contest this army, which is just 4 adepts and 3 stalkers. There's just nothing that fights back. He doesn't. He's trying to keep the infestors alive. He may very well be able to do so. Picks up another queen. Ranger really needs to split out these units because eventually the infestors now have energy. There's a fungal, which will mildly inconvenience them. There's a 3rd fungal, which may kill a couple of these units. A couple sentries come up. The drones are pulled. The fight will continue. A force field, which has questionable effect. Colossus targeting Hydras. Infestors have no energy. The Colossus is the only unit in the fight. It's chasing down infestors. Doesn't work out. More adepts show up to the party. The Hydralisk, there's barely any. He really wants those infestors. Though he's gonna lose Eltray. What a save! What a mess! But what a save. So I do have to say, I think Ranger definitely bungled this one, as there was every opportunity to take down those infestors. But at the same time, what? Still, though, Maomeka's at 47 drones. Getting Hydras against Colossi. He does have Burrow and Neural Parasite, and there's no way to know about the Neural Parasite until it's used. And technically no way to know about Burrow until you spot them burrowing. But the obvious possibility here is a Neural Parasite on the Colossi. And without a neural parasite on the Colossi, Male Mecha is building only units that die to Colossi, Hydras and Zerglings. They get melted. Well, more like immolated. Spontaneously combusted by the extended thermal lances. So, Neural Parasite almost has enough energy for it. He's going to have potentially 3 of them. Now, of course, and those infestors have refused. He didn't even lose one. There was a lot of effort put into killing those infestors that just did not end up paying off. Already a hectic game. Adepts into the natural. Male Mecha finally got his drone count up, only to get cut down again. Down goes... Wow, a lot. A lot of... 30 workers killed and counting. He's back down to 55. The Adept in a perfect positioning here. 3 targets onto the drone. Oh my god, it's beautiful. Beautiful positioning. Jamming it up into those minerals. But the infestors are here. Is there... There's no... Oh my god, there's no observer. I'm starting to predict. Well, the army is heading right up the center. Male Mecha has his infestors to the north. He's got an overseer, an observer killer. Ranger is about to be on the very small amount of creep that Male Mecha has actually created. And here, the army's on the way back. There is no detection. So, the infestors are working their way by. Force field is good. Oh, but the revelation! And, yeah, can I borrow those, bro? He recalls, but the recall doesn't catch the Colossi that are neural parasited. It's a disaster for Ranger. A decisive, overwhelming victory as the most powerful Protoss units are borrowed by the Zerg. Oh, he didn't. Down goes the Oracle. And, well, on top of the recall, did the recall even bring, I think he got like 5 or 6 stalkers back, but they were already damaged. There may be enough energy for Fungal. Though, just a handful of poorly upgraded Hydras against Charge this fight isn't as decisive. He does have shield battery overcharge. Wait, does he not have any energy? He just got enough energy on a Nexus. No, well, the oracles keep popping out, but I'm not entirely sure they are being controlled. A Colossus shows up again. There is energy. He's kept those infestors alive. He's been babysitting them their entire game. The War Prism being used for my... He just grabbed... You serious, bro? The most predictable, yet inevitable. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal, Colossi. Well, this was certainly, of all the StarCraft games I've ever seen, this was one of them. As Male Mecha successfully plays Protoss in Zerg versus Protoss and uses it to great effect. Unfortunately, Ranger, gonna be forced to tap it out. Well, well, that was certainly a game. The infestors, Ranger knew how dangerous they were. Maybe a little too focused on how dangerous they were, but quite a creative game there from Male Mecha. Thank you to Dave Test for recommending it. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed and were appropriately surprised by the outcome of everything. But I think some fun games today. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Thank you for watching. Good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.